Thank you, Teresa. We are now live on YouTube, so we're officially continuing our morning meeting of the House Appropriations Committee, and we are just doing committee work. We have no testimony scheduled today. So if the committee, if you have your web report from where we left off in March, we had only 5 sections left open out of that whole web report. So we have a lot that we can work off from very quickly. What I would like to do is take the new web report that Teresa has, and if you don't have a printed copy yet, you can just take some quick notes on sections and then transfer your notes or do whatever works for you. But what I'd like to do is just shelve things that we think really don't have any moving pieces. Nothing is closed for those of you listening on YouTube. Nothing is closed until the day we vote yes or no on the budget. And so this is just for us to keep moving forward.
Okay.
I don't want to go into long detail on any of the pieces, but if we can't close it, you could just give a quick XYZ highlight for our notes, and we'll just keep on moving. And Kimberly's not with us, and Linda's not with us, so we'll try not to do too much with those budgets. But B100, there's little changes if you look from what we did in March compared to where we are now. The total fund is down about $70,000, so it's screwing up those areas. Dave, are you the secretary's office or is Kimberly, or are you helping her with these?
Dave there.
It's Kimberly.
Yeah, but I think Dave said he was helping with some of these office budgets. It's Dave here.
Yeah.
There you are. There
Yeah.
you are. Were you weighing in
You
on
see
any
me?
questions for Kimberly?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go.
So with the secretary's office, are you comfortable, Dave, since you're very familiar with these sections of the budget, to shelving this? There's a very small difference in
Yes,
the
I am.
recommend.
Yes, I am.
And so if they're recommended, I'm not going to ask if there's opposition, just stop and say, no, I want to leave it open. So not hearing anything, I'm going to shelve B100. Dave, do you want to B102 is exactly the same, so I believe we can shelve that. There's no changes.
Correct.
And B103, we had closed that. Mary had talked about adding some language here on workers' compensation insurance, but you put that on hold, Mary.
Yep. Yep.
And the number is a bit lower. It's lower by 90 something thousand dollars. I'm trying to do the quick math here. No, by
100 and something.
100 and
Yeah.
or 105,000.
Yeah. This is where they're taking the 5% savings. And so they're assuming that they're going to be able to reduce their costs over time. So this is going to be an out year pressure when they actually reconcile this. But there's
Okay.
not, I don't think we have any way around this.
Personal service operating expenses. So these, the internal service funds, that's where we see
Yeah.
the largest dip in
Yeah.
operating expenses. Mary, recommendation here is,
Well, it's not my budget, but I think we should close it.
okay. You're right. You always
Kimberly.
in on
Yeah.
Kimberly.
Yeah.
Let's shelve that unless we come back to it with her. I've just got to figure out where I'm putting my pages. Okay, the next one is 103, Dave, general liability insurance. And that is slightly changed, and there's a down in the operating expenses. So that must be meeting some of these 3% targets in-house or the 5% ISF. Dave,
Katie, just to be clear, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
I'm helping Kimberly in the secretary's office at AHS, not the Secretary of
Oh,
Administration.
That's right.
So I didn't
thank-
want to speak,
That's
I
right.
didn't
We're
want
in
to
federal
speak for her.
government.
I am familiar. Yeah, I am familiar with this and it looks good to me, but I don't want to, you know what I mean? I don't want to
Thank
I
you.
don't want to speak for her.
I haven't looked at this
Yeah,
and I
it's
thought we
okay.
were in AHS and we're not. We're in the governor's office. So who has, Kimberly doesn't have,
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Is
So
this
who has-
Diane? Oh, heck, I'll find my sheet and look it up.
I'll look at my sheet.
Not me.
Oh, but it is Kimberly.
Yeah,
It is
this
Kimberly.
is all
Okay,
Yeah,
Jessup,
Yeah.
Secretary of Administration.
yeah.
Okay, let's
This
leave the rest of these open, 103 and 104. And we'll have her weigh in on that. Marty is here, so let's jump right into the Agency of Digital Services and see if there's areas that we can hear. Marty. with
Kitty,
5? Yes? Oh, hi, Linda.
I can't, I have lost the link on my iPad or on my computer. Can Teresa resend me the link? I'm talking to you on my iPad right now, but I
Oh,
want to use
sure.
my computer.
Uh-huh. Can you resend that, Teresa, please?
I need to pause the screen for a second.
Okay.
I'm
We'll-
sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
I just sent it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Peter.
I sent your 10:08 a.m. web report email to her.
Yeah, did you let her know that it's actually 10:45? It says 11:45 by mistake.
Well, no, not the invite. I'm talking about the web report. I sent the web report. I did not
The
send
web
the link.
report I don't need. I
No,
want
she
the-
wants the Zoom link.
I'd never got the link. Mary sent that to me. Where is
Okay,
it?
hang on.
And it didn't come
Okay.
through with for Mary's for me. That's why.
Oh, okay.
My computer's really fussy.
You guys go on and I will try to get this to Linda.
No,
I
Teresa's
just
gonna
sent
send it
it.
to me.
I just sent her the link.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
Bob.
Uh-oh.
Okay, there you are, Linda. Excellent.
No, I'm still on my iPad.
No, I can see you. Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I haven't, but it's not up on my computer. That's the thing. I still haven't gotten Teresa's message.
how about Peter's?
Different message I sent her.
I don't have that one either.
Really?
I'm gonna close out
You're
and start.
checking your leg or your Comcast email?
I'm tapping my Comcast email, my Ledge email, right?
Okay, I think you got to check your Comcast.
Okay. You guys don't have to wait for me, just.
All right, I'm on page 25. I printed it. I gave up.
Okay, it's here. I'm going off here and then I'll be back.
Does anybody here know what a camel is?
A camel?
Yes, it's a horse designed by a committee.
Oh,
Yeah.
We're doing some of that.
I
yeah.
thought that was a platypus.
I think we're doing a pretty remarkable job considering
I do too, Mary.
a bunch of
Okay.
old,
But I probably have about 10 times the amount of space that I normally would, so like I get to spread way out.
okay. So,
Are we going forward? Because I'm next.
Yep, we are going forward. You're not, I think
not, it's Marty.
services
Okay.
next.
I'm next.
All right,
Okay.
you're up, Marty. Let's go.
Okay, Agency of Digital Services, we had approved originally, the original FY81 or whatever it is, 21 budget. There was a small correction in the special funds. And now this new one takes a further reduction from what had been the original FY21, and the numbers that are here are correct. Yes, it is an increase over last year, but that's because there was a whole bunch of bespoke stuff that was in
Marty?
the
Marty, where did
original
you send
21.
Ruth in? We're having some looping. Are we done with our looping?
Wait, that might be me.
Actually, I think it was me, but I think I'm done with it.
Okay, so Marty, the change is a slight decrease and it is due to,
Well, the current is a slight decrease from the original FY21 budget, and it is due to a reduction that they took in some general fund and some salaries, some vacancy savings, and they had reductions in ISF as well from other departments.
okay, and you're
So
recommending,
what's shown on the new web report agrees with what they showed to us a week or so ago, and I recommend it.
okay, we're going to shelf this unless anyone wants to keep it open. And a lot of these are going to see the 5% and the 3% targets that were given, either 5% ISF or 3% general fund targets to budgets. Let's move to 106. Diane, I think this is yours.
It is mine. I was getting, so did we check off 105? Marty?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yes.
So, thank you. So yes, the next two are mine, 106 and 107 are together. That's the finance and management and the financial operations are the two of them. You'll see, it looks like it's an up. 106 is up to 212 because they are transferring something, two line items from 107 up to 106. So they wash each other out. All of the other things are the normal 3 and 5% reductions. And I'm okay with closing both of those.
Okay, we'll accept that unless I hear anyone who says no. 108 human resources.
That's me. And we did not take testimony from them, but I am comfortable with what they're proposing and would suggest that we shelf B108 and 108.1, 109 and 109, so 3.
Okay, and this is one interestingly where the internal service funds actually went up and not down, and the reductions were within the transfers and you know, some small GF from the 3%. But thank you, Mary. Because mostly we've seen those IFS charges go down, and they did say there were a couple where they were up. So 107, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
Libraries.
That's me. They've met their 5% in ISF, their 3% in the GF. I have not heard back from the state librarian as to whether or not these reductions have a negative impact on fulfilling their mission. But the only downs are the ISF, a little bit of travel, which is related to the COVID impact, a little bit of down from software, which is just being phased out anyhow. And that, so it's all good as far as I'm concerned.
So we'll close it unless you hear back that there's an issue that we address.
That it's otherwise. Yep.
Mary?
Hang on. So they are reducing their grants that they're making to the communities or to the community libraries, I assume? Is that what
No.
that means?
No, I asked specifically about the grants and they are intact. The only reductions are in their, the required 5% in ISF, a little bit down in travel, and some software was being phased out. There's nothing with regard to the grants involved there.
Mary, if you look at the grants for what we agreed with in March, it's the same
Oh,
number.
it's the same. Sorry.
Yeah,
That's what
over
I'm not
15
doing.
months. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Nope, you're good. B11, Diane? Are you tax?
I'm here. Yes, I am tax. as far as these numbers go, they're down the 5 and the 3%, and I don't have any issue with this here. We may have some discussions with Ways and Means on language, but these particular numbers are fine. I would close it.
Okay. I don't see any opposition, so we're going to move to 312.
112.
Thank you. We're going to move to 112.
So this,
That's Peter.
This is-
BGS.
yep, this is BGS. These numbers are all accurate. I'm sorry, 112, 113. Remember, 500,000 of this is coming in from the Agency of Transportation on an MOU. 114. All the figures in BGS are all accurate. I do have a couple of questions outstanding to them, but they are not reflected in these figures. They're reflected in some of the language, and I'll keep the committee informed. So as far as I am concerned, and my recommendation is that we close, I got to go back here, 112 through, where is the first space? 112 through 122.
So Peter, I do have one question. On 112, there's no reductions at all in 112 and 113. In 114, it's actually an up of about 225,000. Do you know what the, to see what that up in, I think it's mostly, oh, they did receive some Corona relief fund.
I gotta look it up.
Yeah, there's some CRF money in there.
Yep.
That would offset any other differences, the use of CRF. That's the first time I've paid attention to that bump. Thank you. So that brings us through 150.
May I?
Yeah.
I assume that this is probably in, the section in BGS that falls to property. I don't know where it is, but in the presentation from BGS, we heard that they were shifting some of their maintenance expenses to the capital fund. And I am curious.
Sure.
I mean, technically they are allowed to do that, but we have also been advised strongly by the treasurer and others to not shift operating expenses onto capital.
And they are not shifting operating expenses onto capital. This would be things like air handlers, which are a major piece of equipment expected to last 20 years, that before they had just been put into operating expenses. They should be put into capital expenses, and that is what they will be doing. So I understand the question, and the additional testimony was taken by Corrections and Institutions. And this is exactly what they heard downstairs. Corrections and Institutions actually on all aspects of the budget approved on a 10-0 vote to accept these budgeting numbers, and they were, albeit not happy. They understood the scrubbing of capitalized expenses versus operational expenses. And the individual who was responsible for that gave them direct testimony to indicate that they were going to be doing a better job to ensure that they did that in the future. And they were fine. They were okay with that.
I appreciate that, and I understand the rationale. They have historically underfunded maintenance, and this is an issue in BGS in terms of just managing our property. They should be spending about 5% annually, and they are not. I'm okay with this. I just want this to be something front and center for people. It's an issue with just the ongoing management of our property that we shouldn't ignore. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you,
Good
Peter,
points.
for being in the committee vote. Marty?
Yeah, I have a question regarding this reference to the CRF fund. In none of the budgets that we talked to, that we looked at their actual crosswalks, did they include the CRF funding in what we did? And should they be? Are we being consistent? Because as an example, in ADS, they received a ton of CRF money to cover payroll expenses to help set up grants and do a variety of other things, but that doesn't show in their regular budget. It's being accounted for separately, I presume.
Maria,
And this is the first one where I've seen it actually show up as a funding
question.
source.
that's a
Good
great,
question.
that's a great observation, Marty.
Yeah.
Maria, will you, whoever put the web report together, ask why CRF shows in some areas and not in others?
Okay, yes,
And,
I
and,
will.
and we may have to go through and make those notations.
okay, yes.
Because if we've added CRF, our total budget is going to be huge.
Well,
in
it
terms of
is,
Money being spent by department.
it's over 7 billion because of the CRF money.
Oh,
so
okay. I
The
didn't,
total is, but why it's not reflected, this web report is put together in JFO, right, Maria?
So, yeah, I think that these are the CRF funds that are being requested within the context of the budget. And so on our all funds detail that we get from the administration that we use to build this web report, those CRF expenditures are included. And I believe that that's an accurate thing to do because
I see. They're not.
they're asking you.
New money. They're the new CRF dollars.
Yeah, they're asking you for your authority
For approval.
through the budget. But I'm going to just double check on that just so that we're for sure on the right track.
You're,
I
you're
wonder-
going to
I wonder-
see the same thing in corrections. They did the same thing there.
So I want to make
That's
it
right.
clear to this committee, if these are new requests for CRF dollars, we're not posting those out on the web report. The CRF will all be handled separately through recommendations from the standing committees and through our work separately. And then we'll have to go back and readjust these web reports.
Yeah.
So what we're doing is just the base budget and not the CRF.
Okay, Kitty, can I just say one more thing? I wanted to point out that Chloe Wexler from our office put together a really nice one-page document on CRF funds that lists all the funds that are included in this budget document. And that document Steve presented on Monday, I think. So we can dig it up for you again, just so you can identify where all those dollars are. But
Can we grab that now and print it so that then we can see where, if they're matching to the web report?
yeah, and I think, and it was built from the all
From the
funds
web
detail report. Is the same original source document was used for both the web report and that report. So, Teresa, do you know, do you have that document from Monday that Steve put up? Otherwise, I can send it to you.
I'll look for it. Mary?
So I'm now confused because I thought that we had agreed that we were using CRF in a handful of instances
Yes.
to settle budgets. So if we are not, then there are some significant holes in the budgets. So I don't know how we separate them out because I cannot close DOC, for example.
Well, let's wait. Let me
Yeah.
think about this for a minute, Mary.
Yeah.
This is the chart you're looking at, right, Teresa? Maria, this is the chart. I'm kind of holding it up here.
I'm sorry, my mouse was
Yes.
completely froze and I couldn't do anything.
That is the document. Yep, it's document number 349825.
Yep, okay, we all had this from the other day. I don't know if you printed it out. It's the Corona relief spending. Shows the
Yeah.
JFC. And then it showed nicely what we did in June and July. And then it showed the totals, and then it showed the governor's recommend. And then there was a bunch of proposed one-time CRF in the waterfall. That's what we're going to work off separately. There was also money here that the governor into total general government, 3.7 million, 1.5 into protection and protections, protection of persons and property, human services, there's 10 million, commerce, there's 750,000, in transportation, there's 1.5. So my question is to the committee that have CRF funding that goes directly into the budgets and is not part of that one time at the end with the 133 million and the Vermont State Colleges. Are you prepared to make decisions on those CRF dollars within your budget? And let's go back to the one that we came to.
Kitty, I think we have to. Mary's absolutely correct. Either we pull out expenses from
Right.
our budgets and assign them to a CRF bill
Right.
to be able to do that, or we duplicate the revenue by having it in CRF, and then the CRF bill would reflect it into our bill, and then it would be reflected appropriately here. I think we're better off doing what has been proposed in front of us and allowing us to make the decisions as we go. It reduces complications from where I'm, my initial thought process.
And transparency for us to be able to figure out where it's at.
So then let's just go back to page, if you go back to page 4 of 73, B with the tax administration, that's where we see coronavirus relief funds. And this would go in and reduce the amounts needed. I'm not seeing where that one is not a good example because there were increased pressures within tax, probably because of the amount that they needed to do and they couldn't reach those targets. But the CRF funds are offsetting those additions. So we have to determine if we're going to agree with the use of CRF dollars to work within these budgets.
Let me see what it exactly was. I've got their detail right here.
So Kitty, if you want to go, for example, go to the information centers, there's 360,000 of CRF money applied here. It's for portalets.
Cleaning, portalets.
Portalets.
Yeah.
Rent
portalets.
and clean.
Okay. I think now that we're very clear what the money is, it's to offset coronavirus relief related expenses. It's not for the one-time initiatives that we have to separately. Okay, we're good. I'm good. I stumbled for a minute. Okay, so thank you, Marty, now for bringing that up, but now I fully understand. So we're at 124, the executive offices. Is anyone else all set? I mean, are we all set to move on? Okay, executive offices, Diane.
No, that's me. I've got the Maida. I have the executive office.
Oops.
I do. Shall I proceed?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. So it would seem that we could close this out. They met their 5% ISF. They met their 3% in the GF. There was a clear statement that they could absorb these reductions, and the reductions are in 3 places. The ISF dues paid, dues which were paid for from 2020 money. I think that was for the NGA, and some vacancy savings. There's one thing I would call to your attention. There was originally, and there still is, an increase in the interdepartmental transfers. This is an increase which had not been, it's for transfers which had not been changed since the early 2000s. And it's for services which the executive office provides to some of the departments and agencies in terms of communications with constituents. Specifically, it's human services, natural resources, transportation, and public safety. So.
Thank you, Maida. I don't hear any opposition to closing that one. Thank you for the detail. 125 Legislative Council, Diane.
That's me. So the next 5 are the entire legislative branch. And I have to say that I'm okay with their numbers that they submitted on their detail sheet, but I'm going to need to work with either Maria or somebody because they are not matching up to what is in the web now. So we're going to see with that first one there, which goes from 3 to 5, where the Ledge Council and down in 126.1, the next one down has got 0. something didn't trigger correctly. Their details are fine and I'm happy with where they're at. Just, it's not being reflected on the web report the way, and that's probably because of the way it gets uploaded. So, I don't
Okay.
believe,
Diane, I'm gonna get Dan from our office to sort through this and
Yeah.
we'll get you an answer soon.
So
Okay,
Diane, how many of them are we keeping open? All of them, all 5?
you know, if people are okay, I'm okay with closing the 4. The only one that I think we should keep open, or we had open before, was on the next page, 128, which is the Sergeant at Arms. And depending on where we as the Appropriations Committee were not comfortable, at least yet, with the body camera purchase. And we're questioning that. So
Is this
that
also
one we're-
where the additional security guard would be?
it's where it would have been, but they have now taken it off. In
I
their
know they
August
have.
budget, they took it off.
But have we checked, government operations agreed with taking it off? The additional officer?
Oh, that's true. I don't know.
And Kitty,
Yeah,
certainly if we end up in Barry Auditorium, are we
Right.
going to need
Good.
additional
Right.
security? I mean, it would be CRF funding, but would it be, no, it wouldn't.
so let's
Sorry.
leave that open, Diane.
So leave
for the body
128
cameras.
open and I've got to figure out where the numbers are with Dan. But
Yeah.
the others I'm fine with. That's the only question I have is all, and the body cameras were 21,000.
Okay, the body cameras and the additional officer, those are the 2 pieces. Thank you, Diane.
Sure.
Lieutenant
If we wanted to get the officer, we'd have to break the dollars into this.
Right. Lieutenant Governor. Must be Kimberly. I'm going to make an executive decision. There were the small reductions within the the 3%. I don't see any internal service, so the 3%. And I
It's
think
Bob.
of that. Excuse me?
That's
Got it.
Representative Helm.
That's Bob Helm.
Oh, where is
I was
Bob?
preparing to tell everybody that, but I guess I don't have to now.
Oh, I'm
yeah,
sorry. I
yeah.
was,
Yeah, I don't have a problem with this. I actually had decided that before we left. And I almost thought I reported on it, but maybe I didn't. But
you
anyway.
did in March, and Bob in
Right,
March recommended to close it.
Right, and I don't have any notes on it. They're in my, I think they're in my desk up there. Because when we left, we kind of got up and walked away, and as I cannot recall the exact reason for the increase. However, it was a reasonable increase. I just can't remember. It was $31,000.
Yeah, there's just a small change within the,
Well,
within the general
I
fund.
think it was healthcare.
Bob,
No.
you can find out that reduction, but in the meantime, let's shelve it because it's a minimal change and we're seeing
Right.
those reductions within the general fund. Mary Auditor?
I'm sorry, I forgot to look at these numbers and I am not sure. I think that we need to do an interdepartmental or the transfer money from the SARF account to cover the cost of their, I'm not sure. I need to come back to it. Sorry,
Okay.
guys.
I'm just going to make that note about possibly transferring money from the SARF. That was a plus or, there was an increase of plus or minus 1%, Mary. SARF. Okay, we'll leave it
Yeah.
open. You can figure it out.
Sorry.
It's fine. The next one is the state treasurer.
That one's Maida.
Maida, are you with us? Maida get kicked off?
There was a thing that came up about a message that blocked my ability to unmute. Anyway,
Yeah.
so the state treasurer covers B 131 through 134. I have made some specific inquiries of the treasurer's office and have not had responses. On the face of it, my own interpretation is that things are okay. I was just double checking here, however. We had in the Q1 budget, we had funding for the administration of the, there it is. Yes. In the Q1 budget, there was 30% funding for the administration component of the, for the pensions. And I need to be able to double check, among other things, with that office as to whether or not that
Right, yeah.
occurred, that it was only 30%, or what, in any case, circling back around after all that yapping on my part, I have not yet heard back from the state treasurer's office, which surprises me because I sent this at the same time I contacted everybody else, but they're probably buried over
Do
there.
you want to leave it open, Megan?
I would just as soon leave it open till I have the for sure answers from them.
Okay. Let's move to unclaimed property. I think that one's more straightforward.
Oh, okay. So the unclaimed property, there was a direct application transfer to the GF for the unclaimed property, and otherwise, it's all good because you can see it goes, yeah.
It's the same.
Shelf that.
Yep.
133, the state teacher, I'm sorry, the state retirement.
Users. It's the state employees. That's the state employees. It's just the same. Everything's in order for 133 and 134.
There's no change from, and unless the treasurer brings us a structural kind of.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So 133 and 134, and that moves us to 135, the Labor Relations Board. Need my paper so I know whose budgets these are.
Dave,
I think
Dave.
that's state,
Dave, the State Labor Relations Board.
not Bob.
Thanks, honey.
Labor Relation Boards is Dave. Are you with us, Dave?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry,
Okay,
I
well-
was muted. Yes,
That's okay.
we're okay with that. I can give you the details. Long story short, you know, they're double filling positions because of a vacancy and a training. They had a lot of money in the budget to double fill the position for training purposes. They've backed off that and achieved their savings. We can close them.
Thank you, Dave. VOSHA Review Board.
That's me. I haven't heard from them. They were terribly concerned about not having anything swept. This is a down of about,
3,000.
3,000. You know, they're a little tiny organization, so it's hard. But as I said, I haven't heard. I think they're going to be fine.
We will
Close
shut
it.
it down, Mary, unless you come back to it.
Yep.
The Ethics Commission, that's at the bottom of page 11.
That's mine.
Thank you, Dave.
Yep, that's mine. It's a $5,900 reduction. They're totally funded with the ISF. I have not spoken to them. I have a call into them. It seems reasonable to me. I'll recommend closing it. And I'd be very surprised if I come back to you, but go ahead.
Thank you, Dave. It's just meeting those targets. The next one is homeowner rebate, 137.
That's me. That's
Diane?
Diane. The number has not changed. So, and I haven't heard anything from the contrary to that anybody has propensity to change it. So I'm gonna say we close it.
And renter rebate has not changed. Is that yours, Diane?
It is mine too. It has not changed. And we kind of had that question about that $500,000 total remodernization. I don't think we're going to change this. It's what it is.
Don't say. Okay,
Did I say that out loud? It is
Yeah,
what it
you
is.
did.
that's okay. Diane. We'll move right along to 139, the tax
Kitty,
department.
hang on,
Yes,
Kitty.
yes, yes.
I thought Ways and Means was concerned about what that was going to be. I can't remember.
We-
I have for notes that, should this actually be in the education fund, and is there a bit of one-time available this year? But ultimately, we closed it in March. And so if there's some outstanding issues, Diane, that's your,
Well, yeah, I know that I've got a note here that H934 on the renter's rebate reform was in the process, and I know that Ways and Means had something in the works with that. I don't know if that this obviously didn't happen yet. Here's where we swept $1.4 million from here for underutilization. And so I'm going to question why it's still at 9.5
Yeah.
when, so it's back to its normal after, we took away to balance 20. Do we have here, so that's my question. Do we have here the ability to take another 1.4
So
without hurting this program?
I need to check in the reversion section because that's where the 1.4 was coming. If you look at the language for section E138, the renter rebate,
Yep.
the governor is saying that they're withdrawing the proposal for the 500,000.
Right, which is totally different from the 1.4 that we took in we took it in the either budget adjustment to balance from the previous years. So and then, that's
Okay,
why.
let's just,
Mhm.
let me get some clarification on this.
Yeah, we might have some room here.
I think isn't this one where it is based on prior year's income in terms of what you're eligible for? And so it's a very volatile area. I
Yep.
think that in fact, we are likely to see more of a demand for this in this year because
Yeah.
of volatility. So
Yeah.
I think we need to be careful about trying to pull money out of there.
I would agree with you, Mary. The reason it's there is because people don't access it who have the eligibility now. And that was why they wanted to
They're
put in
changing.
reforms.
Yep.
And do the modernization and kind of move to like, okay, we keep collecting this, but they only have an X number percentage of people applying or people actually knowing that they have this option in their life. So I would agree that we will probably have more people would access it if they knew it existed. Which is why we've had leftovers over in the past.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I want to move from renter rebate because otherwise we're going to get stuck too long in any of these. Diane, if you want to come back with open issues, and I realize this is an issue,
yeah.
As we make this program more readily available, but for this budget at this time, do you recommend that we shelve it unless you learn?
I recommend that we shelve it unless Ways and Means or somebody else can make me think that maybe we have the ability to say, based on past history, you've not used this much.
Okay.
And we've, so do we need to put 9.5 when year after year after year, it's only coming in at, you'll see the year before at 8.1. So why are we back at 9.5 when the use of this is demonstrated much less?
And we should also wait and see with the new policy change if it puts more pressure on it, as you said, with more people using it. So
Right.
to reduce it
just put
now
it-
might not be the time.
It might not be the time, but I'm just saying, just put that in your back.
We need to watch it. Mary, did you have a question here?
Nope.
Okay. Let's shelve that for now. B139, the tax department reappraisal.
Yep, those are all me.
Yep, those haven't changed at all.
No, and I apologize, Madam Chair. This is the first time I'm actually looking at the web report and comparing it to my notes on these things. I've been fine with it. I just looking at making sure that their numbers align, but I don't think we have any desire to make any changes on current use or
Not at this point in the game,
I would say 140 we closed.
okay? And we,
And 142 was where the payment in lieu of taxes has historically at town meeting has gone up. If you remember, Steve indicating that we were going to hold off on maybe this number changing after town meeting in March. But he testified to us last week that we should probably stay with this number right here. So unless Steve tells me I shouldn't, I'm okay with this.
okay, and so it's what we had agreed upon in March as well.
Yes.
143, payment in lieu of taxes, Montpelier, and that number has not changed, and we agreed in March to keep it at 184.
Correct.
Still you?
Yes. Yep. And I'm good with that too.
And what about correctional facilities? Is that you or Mary?
That's me. That's the payment in lieu of taxes for specifically for that. And yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay, at least we have done one section. It's the total general fund section. And if you look at the number of CRF dollars, it matches the number that's on our sheet, which is really a good thing where the numbers match up. 3,774,000 and some change to offset general fund pressures. Okay, let's go to protection of persons and property. The AG, I think we need to leave open because of positions.
Yeah, the only thing on there to leave open is the question about, and we heard this testimony before, which is why, unless people want to hear it again, the governors recommend in the original FY21 budget had their vacancy savings rate at 7%. And what they're asking and been advocating for, and what I've been advocating for, is that we keep their vacancy savings at 4%, which is a more reasonable number. But in order for them to be able to achieve 4%, this would need to get bumped up $158,519.
Tell me
And
that
that's
number
been,
again.
it is $158,519.
Thank you, Diane.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
that's a decision we'll have to make. Court diversion, Chip, I think he just left, but he had some pieces within court diversion.
Yeah.
Are you there, Chip, still? I thought you were going to education.
He messaged that he left.
Yep, okay. Let's leave court diversion open. We had closed it before, but I think there are some pressures there. Any
Chair,
comment?
I just want to let you know that I sent an email just confirming that whether people can stay today to listen to the court diversion piece at 3:45, I believe.
That's
about
when they can come
45.
in?
Yeah.
Okay,
I would say too that if you're tracking here, it's at 2.8 million. But in the previous January budget, it was at 3.2. So there's a pretty good, pretty good reduction.
Chip had a bunch of concerns in this one as well as, I believe, a grant that we have. No, the grant was judiciary. That was a different piece.
Yeah, this is in special funds.
So I would
They've
like to
lost
leave.
their special funds. They need to be replaced is the issue.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would like to leave open 201, 202 until Chip comes back, 203, and 204 and 205. So that he can walk through those pieces.
He's 206 and
and
207. Yeah.
And okay, we got to move that page. And then let's move to public safety, Maida, which is you. Maida, are you there for public safety?
Yes, there, I got unmuted. Okay, so
The administration.
so the administrate, first of all, for the entire department, they do have their 5% reduction in ISF and their excuse me, hang on just a second. Just a sec. Oh, yeah, here we go. Yes, they do have their 5% reduction for ISF. For the reduction in GF, it comes in at 2.3%, not 3%, 2.3. And can they absorb the reductions? The response was yes. Now, to look at the divisions within the department, the first one in the web report is administration. All right. So the only change in the way in what's listed for the administration of the department that was notable to me was that the e-ticket program, to file tickets electronically with the courts from out in the field, that was moved from being paid for through general fund to federal funds, which are now going to cover that. It was the only thing that popped out to me in the administration part. That's 208. I don't know if you folks have any questions you want to ask about
The large
more
reduction in
detail.
special funds, Maida, did you mention the
The
large?
large reduction in special funds. Okay, that goes back.
Oh, no,
to-
that goes from, I did what Mary did. I went back to fiscal year 20 and not back to my previous budget. Okay, the previous budget shows that change, the special funds, and it was reviewed.
Yes, and that that was due to the Vermont incident-based reporting system being transferred to criminal justice services.
Thank you, Maida. So your recommendation here?
That 208, from my perspective, should be closed.
Thank you. And I don't hear any opposition, so let's move to 209 or.
Okay, yep, 209 is the state police. And here, whereas there is some reduction, there are notable expenses nonetheless built in, and I'll just call those to our attention. The commissioner spoke to most, if not all of these, when he was visiting with us last week. There's the additional 6 mental health positions. That's in addition to the 1 that was in the original FY21 GovRec. And those come to a total of $450,000 out of general fund at 75,000. 75, yes, there was 75,000 for 1 in the original budget, and now there's 6 more for a total of 7 at 75,000 each. There's the addition of a part-time civilian to co-direct the fair and impartial policing program at VSP. And that person would co-direct with Captain Scott, Gary Scott, who has been dealing with the FIP program, Fair and Impartial Policing. That's at 65,000. The 1.3 million that was in the state police back in January for overtime. You'll remember we talked about this a little bit because I got confused last week. That's definitely still there, 1.3 million necessary for the overtime. We still have 40,000 coming from VSP to go toward drug recognition expert program at the training council. The body cameras we talked about last week, the hardware is paid for. The remaining amount, which is 226,124, when you compare the January version and the restated version, that's for the cloud storage of the data. I've sent the language to GovOps to get their thoughts on the language to tweak existing language such that it's clear who all at VSP needs to be wearing cameras and who doesn't. As to somebody who sits at a desk all day having a body camera running. And also from transportation, just so that everybody's aware, because this does come up every now and again. From transportation, there remains $20,250,000 from transportation, with the notation that approximately half of VSP's activity relates to highways, one way or the next. For anyone on the committee that's not aware of it, VSP is the primary law enforcement entity for 212 of our communities statewide. So they do a lot of traveling. It's not just up and down the interstate.
Maida, I'm really glad you pointed that out, because that is one area where T funds are used, and it has been considered a raid on them because of the state police work on the highways to keep them safe.
Well, it's not a raid.
No,
Yes, yes.
I'm just talking a history. I'm sorry.
I understand, yes. And those were the things that were outstanding in my mind. And even with all that added, I personally was somewhat agog to find out a reduction of any percent, you know, so, but they did manage within their division to get a little bit pulled down. So unless there are questions, I mean, personally, I'm ready to check that one off.
Okay, thank you, Maida. Is any opposition to agreeing to that budget? There are some changes Maida outlined. Then
I can add that for history pieces, the transportation piece to the state police, there was, you know, at one point it was like 42 million, and then it was getting down there. Way back when, maybe about 8 years ago, there was a decision to make to take a look at and study that over the summer as to what is the appropriate division of support transportation should be making to the state police, and it not being pushed onto the general fund. And that study over the summer came to this conclusion that that amount or that percentage is the correct balance. Unhappily received at transportation, but that's what they should be paying.
Thank you, Diane.
You're welcome.
That's very helpful.
Let's go to 210, please.
210 is criminal justice services. These are things such as the marijuana registry, that's the medical marijuana registry, the Vermont Crime Information Center, sex offender registry, radio tech stuff that supports the PSAPs, and the Vermont Incident-Based Reporting System that I mentioned earlier, a little bit ago. It was transferred from administration of DPS to this division. They have within the division a little reduction also. I made a note to myself here that they found a way to ease pressure on the general fund by $1.2 million being moved from the general fund to special funds through the criminal history, and that special fund is the criminal history record fund. And apparently that can cover the needs.
Thank
But
you,
it gets that pressure off the GF.
And your recommendation?
That we should go with it.
Shelve that. Okay, let's move to 211 if I don't hear any.
Okay, so B211, that's emergency management. Oh, man. Okay. And I should say with regard to emergency management, and that they also effected a reduction. If anyone wants to see the list of FEMA money that came in during this time frame, the COVID time frame, I do have the list of the FEMA money from Erica Bornman, who heads up emergency management.
She's great.
What was I going to say? There was a notation I had here. Oh, yes, there is an up. There is an up overall in emergency management with regard to their basic funding here. A tiny up of $39,165, and that's $13,000 that was necessary for swiftwater rescue and $27,000 that went to damage assessments, both related to our climate-related storm extremes, weather extremes, swiftwater rescue and damage assessments.
Thank you, Maida.
So that covered what was necessary for the people to go out and deal with stuff. And I would recommend that we say A-OK to this one also.
Okay, we are getting close on time. So what I would like to do is get through the end of public safety, and then it'll be just around noon. And then Bob will pick up this afternoon with military with you. Oh, is that all right?
You want me to press on?
Yep, because I'd like to finish public safety
Yep.
and for lunch.
Okay, there's only two more divisions in public safety. 212 is fire safety. Well, we heard last week, they're in sad shape, having ended FY 2020 with a substantial deficit, $900,000 basically. And it's because they are fee reliant. And that the substantial downturn in their revenue from fees was related to the COVID and the impact on construction and all of that. There is nothing that can be said other than, you know, Michael DeRocha, who heads up the fire safety, and myself together remotely, we were holding our heads and holding each other's hands and saying, what can we do about this? I don't know if there's anything that can be done. It was totally dependent on the COVID disruption in the construction.
And the fact that in prior years, significant amounts of money had been swept from the
Has been
special
taken away.
fund. If that
Absolutely.
hadn't happened, they would not be in this situation.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. And that was related to the money which had been swept in a particular past year when they had a substantial amount of money. A bunch was taken for new vehicles for the state police.
Yep.
Where we have to be careful where these budgets have these natural ups and downs, and we
Yeah.
don't swipe the money because then we don't
Oh.
have downs.
Yeah. So I don't know what I would say we have to check it off unless somebody has some magic way to pump money in for them.
I would say that we close it, we shelve it as you recommended, and if there's surpluses of money at the end, that this would be an area we might consider.
B213 is the forensic lab. They too, as a division, managed some reduction. One thing that I personally think is really exciting, after years of having to send our much of our testing out of state, we now have on staff a latent print examiner who can take care of testing being done in state now. That's fingerprints and all. Latent print examiner and others on staff at the lab are cross-training so as to get some skills with regard to this latent print examining. So this is going quote unquote live in-house at our own forensic lab starting this fall. And they are in the process of weaning off the external contractor, which I believe was in Pennsylvania, and some other contracts they were able to transition to federal money to ease off the general fund pressure.
Okay, I see a slight reduction there. Thank you, Maida. So your recommendation?
Oh, to accept this, yes, to close it, or shelve it rather.
I don't see anyone opposing that. Thank you, Maida. This brought us right through to exactly 12 o'clock. And Bob, we're going to pick up with military. When we come back, if you are ready to do some of those budgets. And it's 12 o'clock now. Let's come back at, let's come back at 1 o'clock. And what time do we have testimony, Teresa, today?
I think it's
3:45.
5. Let me just double check that. Yes, 3:45.
3:45, and that's court
Attorney
diversion.
General's office.
It's a what?
From the Attorney General's office, but it's specifically to do with diversion.
Court diversion, yeah, okay. And so what I'd like to do, this is just, I know this is just tough, long, tedious work, but we've got to get through it. We're on page 18 of 73. So we've got to plow through this, and I'm really sorry about it. So let's come back at 1 o'clock and we will do this. Let's do it from, we're going to need like a 5-minute break in there. Let's do it from 1 to 2:15 and then 2:30 to just around 3:30, and then we'll take a break and come back and do court diversion. So we'll do 1 to 2:15 and then we'll do.
You cut out, Kitty, can you, Madam Chair, can you just say that again? You cut out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're going to come back at 1 o'clock and keep plowing through the web report until 2:15, take a 15-minute break so we don't go crazy, and work from 2:30 until we'll work around 3:30, 3:35, and then we'll take a couple minutes break and come in and do court diversion and then pick up with it again tomorrow morning.
Okay.
If we can get at least halfway through this web report, that would be really tremendous. And I apologize for how tedious it is, but nothing I can do about it.
Okay, I'll send the next web link out shortly.
Yep, and just look through some of these so that you can move through them quickly. And if they need to stay open until more work is done, they need to stay open. But I think that the committee is agreeing that unless we want to find $18 million in general fund, that we accept where the administration has looked, where CRF legitimately picks up those expenses, and we you know, have that general fund made available. I believe
That's probably me.
that's what? I didn't hear what you said, Marty.
Hello?
I
Okay,
think she's answering the phone.
all right. Go enjoy some lunch.
Yep, my husband brought it.
Going off live now.
Husband.